Am I gonna do this video with or without this headband? I'm gonna do it with it. Hello, oh my goodness, it's been a while. Yeah, about that, I'm not gonna get into detail, but I was having some health problems and I have since gotten that kind of under control. Now I'm back. I didn't have the energy to like film a YouTube video, edit a YouTube video, put that out into the world. I didn't even know what I wanted to talk about. So for the past month, you may know that I have been making TikToks. I never thought I was going to say I was making TikToks, but they're a lot shorter than YouTube, and it was much easier for me to make that with my limited energy. So yeah, I have since gained over 1,000 followers on TikTok in a month. So if you are from TikTok, thank you so much. And I'm glad that you are over here on my channel now. The video that I'm making today is inspired by a lot of my following on TikTok, because since I started making videos about my experience as an ALT, I have gotten a lot of messages on Instagram, on my website, on TikTok about like, I want to be an ALT in Japan, I want to teach in Japan, I want to live in Japan, how can I do what you did? And I just want to make this video to help everyone out with that. If you have any specific questions that I don't answer, you can reach me on my website. I do respond to the emails that come through the contact page on my website, which is marielleontheworldstage.com. Also on my Instagram, on the world stage, you can contact me there. I will answer you and will answer all of your questions, so don't hesitate. I'm just going to tell you my story of how I became an English teacher in Japan and how I got to where I am now as an ALT, because I came here as a different type of English teacher. I need tea. Once upon a time, when I was a wee theater major in university in upstate New York, I had an internship over the summer at a Shakespeare theater company. And while I was at that internship, where I was doing theater, I had a crisis and realized I did not want to do theater when I graduated. And all I could think about was how much I wanted to go to Japan. This seems really random, but I've always been kind of interested in Japan. I was never obsessed with Japan though. I was never into anime or manga. Like, I just appreciated what I knew of Japan. Yeah, the travel bug got me, and I was feeling a little like about theater at the time and not sure if entering the industry was what I wanted to do after I graduated. I didn't feel the same spark I had before. Even the year before, I had a really big spark and passion for being an actor, and it was just kind of going away with time and getting replaced with passion for travel, experiencing other countries, different cultures. This was probably influenced by studying abroad in London and in Ireland. So yeah, once I got out there on my own in the world, I wanted to do it again, and I wanted to do it even bigger and go to a culture completely different from mine. So I decided I was going to apply to be an English teacher in Japan, and I became very invested in applying for the JET program. If you don't know what the JET program is the Japan Exchange and Teaching Program. this is like the best program if you want to be an ALT. So this is for ALTs who are placed in schools, like directly in schools in Japan. They have the best benefits. They get flight reimbursement, I believe. Their housing is subsidized, very, very cheap, but ALTs on the JET program are typically placed in the countryside. Of course, there are ones in cities, but you don't really have a choice with where you're going to be. You can list your preferences, but they won't always take that into consideration. In fact, I've heard that they often completely ignore it because they need people in the countryside, and no one is going to request like that random little town in the middle of like Kyushu. Like that, no one is going to think about that. They're going to think Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka. Oh well, that'll just be what they put down. So I worked so hard for my JET program application. Like I was always working on this, just like rewriting my essay, working with my Japanese professor. I didn't study Japanese, but he helped me. I basically showed up to his office like,
hey, like, I want to go live in Japan. I want to go like learn Japanese. I've never taken your class. I don't know Japanese. But I want to be a JET.
Now he has students who are like Japanese masters applying to the JET program who have been interested like since birth. So like he's dealing with these students, and then he's dealing with me, like the theater major. I was still studying theater, by the way. Like I was graduating with a theater major. So I just like showed up to his office every week with my new draft of the essay. Like I really, really was passionate about this. And he was very supportive of it. He thought I had a different perspective. He thought that I could definitely get the position because he said they're interested in theater majors, even if you don't know Japanese. Like they would be interested in you because you're not afraid to stand in front of an audience, the students, and you have creative ideas and you're a good speaker. So it's all they want for an ALT. He said sometimes my students who are so good at Japanese, like their applications just get pushed to the side because they see so many applications like that of someone who's really into anime, really good at Japanese, wants to live in Japan. Me being a theater major, he said, made it stand out. And I did get an interview for the JET program, which is the hardest thing to get. So once you get the interview, there's a really good chance that you could get the position from the interview. During this time, I also applied to another job because I wanted backup and I wanted options. So I also applied to work at an eikaiwa. Eikaiwa is a private language school. It's a conversational school. It's a business. So people come to this after work, after school, and the environment is you're working for a company, like you're working for this corporation, this business. It's not like working in a public school, completely different. So I applied to this company, which I will not say who it is because I still like to keep that private. Yeah, I applied for them an online application, and then from that, a few days later, I got an email directly from someone, and he invited me to come for an interview the next month, I'm pretty sure. So I interviewed in December, the beginning of December. I think it was December 6th or 7th. And he like put me in for that day. This is my first semester, my senior year. And I was gonna go do this interview and see if I could go to Japan. At the time that I was applying for this eikaiwa, I hadn't yet heard from the JET program. I had submitted my application and I was like, oh, so passionate about the JET program. Then I went to my interview for the eikaiwa and I knew from that day that I had gotten that job. They didn't tell me officially, but I knew. I showed up, I was in New York City for my interview. I showed up to like a conference room and I saw, I think there were 5 other people there. They were all older than me. At the time, I was only 20 years old. So everyone was older than me, had been out of university like for a few years. Someone had a master's degree too. I don't know, I was feeling a little small, I guess. But also I knew that I had something really big to offer, which was my presence and my acting. And like, I knew I could ace this. So the interviewer came in. The first part of the day, which was like hours, was a presentation about the company and Japan. And I made sure I was really intrigued, like nodding. In Japan, when someone's talking, like you should nod your head to show you're listening and react, like be an active listener. So I was really, really making sure I was actively listening and asking questions, sharing my opinion about things. We had to do a little presentation at one point, and then we had to do a teaching demo. So we were given flashcards and we were shown a model of how the lesson would go, and we all were the students for each other. So we were all like kids, and it was a kids lesson. And just for this model lesson, we just had to be really, really animated and enthusiastic and use simple language, very simple language, because they don't speak English, the real kids. And yeah, just follow the instructions that he gave. And I remember like feeling that I did very well. So I was confident. And then after that was a grammar test, and like I graduated summa cum laude, and I still do work as an editor, so the English language is no problem for me. And then while we were taking the grammar test, we were getting invited in for interview one-on-one and kind of feedback about how we did that day. So I got pulled into the interview and we talked. He said to me there was no problem with what I did. One thing he did say to me, actually, he said there was no problem with what I did, but he said he wanted me to smile more or I'd scare the children. I had like been in London a year before, and my personality changed in London. People in London do not smile. So I was always like this. I kind of developed RBF, and I don't have that anymore because I live in Japan and I smile all the time, except now I have my mask, so sometimes I'm like... So yeah, he told me to smile more because it's Japan. At the time, I was like,
did this man just tell me to smile more?
And then he told me that he called me in for the interview because I was a theater major and that they love that. Like, he was saying, like, we want that for the company. Yes, great, you'll hear from me soon. So I left. I knew that I got it, but also I have anxiety. So for the next few weeks, I was like,
I didn't get it, I can't go to Japan.
When I got this email that I got the job for the Eikaiwa, that was like the happiest day of my life. I was freaking out. I had been working so hard on the JET application, on the interview, so hard, so stressed about wanting to go to Japan. This is a dream that I had, and it was possible now. So I remember my family and I were going on a road trip, so I was packing that morning, we were gonna leave later, and then I got the email like running downstairs, like, I can go, like I just kept saying,
I can go to Japan,
because to get the visa, I need a job. I have a job, I can get the visa, I'm gonna go. And I'm only halfway done with the university, So like with the year, so there I have a whole other semester. I ended up turning down my JET interview. I want to explain why, because everyone attacks me for this. I turned down my JET interview because my Eikaiwa promised that I would be placed in a city. I'm a city girl, 100%. I did not want to live in the countryside. If I accepted the JET position, they would not tell me where I would be living until after I accepted and promised to accept wherever they put me. So I would accept it, then they could put me in a rice field. And I was not about that life. Also at the time, I liked the idea of being the only teacher in the classroom because I'm pretty independent. And I knew that at the Eikaiwa, I would be the leader, the only teacher in the classroom. And now I work as an ALT, so like there are perks to both. And I enjoy working with my co-teachers, but at the time, like I didn't want that. So yeah, that's why I turned down the JET interview. I already got the go ahead to move to Japan. The company like was well known. It's famous in Japan. They were gonna pay me really well and set me up with the apartment. It was just everything that I needed to move here, and they put me in Kyoto. And that was my dream, was to be in Kyoto. So it felt really incredible for them to tell me that. Let me talk a little bit about the visa process. So in order to get a working visa for Japan, you need a certificate of eligibility. And to get the certificate of eligibility, you need proof that you have a bachelor's degree and a passport and some other stuff that I'm forgetting right now. But for me, I got my job, and most people who got the job in my group, in my interview group, were planning to move to Japan in March. I was still in school in March. So I got the job and I told them, like, I will be joining you like pretty much in a year from now. Like, so I accepted the job and said in August or September, more like 9 months, I will join the company in Japan, but I need to graduate first or I'm not even allowed to go to Japan. I couldn't apply to my visa or anything until the summer. I was in a limbo stage. Every once in a while, my company would email me like, how are you doing? Just to remind me that I was still employed by them, like, or going to be employed by them. Yeah, just in case I was getting afraid. I graduated in May 2019 and I got my proof of graduation, my transcript, because I couldn't wait for my diploma. It might take too long. And I sent them my transcript, my official transcript that said I graduated. And then they were able to send me my certificate of eligibility. And after that, I was able to bring that to the Japanese consulate of New York City and bring my passport, my application, and I was good to go. So I left it there. They said they'd email me when it was ready or when the result was in. So I was very nervous about, oh, was it approved? Because I had bought a plane ticket and everything. I was planning to go. And yes, luckily everything went smoothly. And I came back about 2 weeks later and got my passport with my visa in it, which was just so crazy to look at because it said like 5 years. It was a visa for 5 years. I had a specialist in humanities visa. There are different types of visas when you come to Japan. My specialist in humanities visa was for working at an Eikaiwa, working at a private institution or business. You can have this type of visa as an English teacher. But to work at a public school or some private schools, you need a different type of visa, which is called an instructor visa. So I came to Japan on a 5-year specialist in humanities visa, and a few months ago, I've got a job as an ALT in a public school system, and I had to change my visa. That's for 1 year. So come next October, which is when it expires, I will have to decide what to do. I'll have to see how this year goes and if I'm going to continue living in Japan. So yeah, at the moment, not worrying about that, just taking it one step at a time. That is my journey of how I got here, just an overview. I feel like there are many specific questions that you might have. So please leave a comment with a question, message me, email me your questions. I will make another video, more of a Q&A style video to answer logistical questions or silly questions. When I was going to be a teacher in Japan, I had so many very specific, kind of weird questions now that I think about it. That's my story of how I got here, and you can check out my TikTok at On the World Stage. Apparently people enjoy it, so thanks for that. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. ありがとうございました。またね。